Hello, I am Rebecca Steinke, and I'm a family practice doctor at Family Practice of Grand Island here in town, and I've been here for 22 years now in practice. I came to Grand Island in 1997 after joining the residency program here, and then once I finished residency, I just stayed. So currently during this COVID pandemic, we in medicine felt we had some real high hopes when the vaccine came out and with excitement. But recently, as we all know from the news, cases have been on a pretty sharp uptick with Delta variant mainly. And at my office, we're seeing a lot more cases. And many of those are people who are not vaccinated. They come in, sometimes they're surprised when we say they need tested because they think they just have a cold. But others come in or they call us and say, I suddenly feel horrible, and we send them to the hospital and they have COVID and they're in the hospital, and they were people who assumed they wouldn't get that sick. So it's still very, very much around and out there and in our community. When the COVID pandemic first started in early 2020, there was a time where we shut down most of our office practice other than acute cases, and we separated ill people from injuries, for instance. And we had a separate hallway just for sick people, and that's about all we did. We did telehealth and caring for COVID. During that, about March to May of 2020 was a big eye-opener and nerve-wracking, to say the least. It felt like I imagined a doctor practicing without modern medicine. Each new disease, you think, I'm just going to be winging it here and try to figure out as we go along, depend on other experts and everybody share their information. On a daily basis, I have patients come in who ask if the vaccine is safe. And sometimes I'll ask them, do you want your COVID vaccine? And they'll say, I don't believe it's safe. It came out too fast. And I think part of that concern comes from the fact that it was a big deal that the vaccine was developed so quickly. And a lot of people assume that meant it was not studied well enough. But the fact is, this was a major triumph between scientists, labs, the government, the Operation Warp Speed program, where multiple labs came together. People were ready to sign up for these studies. It's amazing that 30,000 plus people in the US signed up to be part of the studies for the vaccine. They wanted this to work so well. So it was because of all that cooperation that the studies for vaccines were able to be developed and get started so quickly. Shortcuts were not taken. So I feel very, very safe about the vaccine. The way drug development, vaccine development work is it requires a lot of cooperation, money, people to be involved, and it worked. I've had the question asked more than once about whether fetal cells were involved in the development of the vaccine. And some of my patients know me well enough that they see me in church, so they feel very safe asking me lots of questions about that. And I start by pointing out that major religious leaders around the world have come out strongly in favor of the vaccine. It is how we protect each other. Secondly, fetal cells to develop these vaccines were used very early in the development, and it's similar to how so many other drugs are developed. There was a fetal cell line from the 1970s, a few kidney cells, and they've been kept alive essentially in a lab. And when drug companies or vaccine companies need human cells just to make sure those cells will do well with the medicine or the vaccine in question, those are the cells that are used. There are no fetal cells in the actual vaccine that goes in the arm. None at all. There's a myth or the misunderstanding that the vaccine doesn't work. And we hear so much in the news or just from our neighbors like, oh, I know my neighbor got the vaccine and then he tested positive for COVID a month later, so it must not work. And I explain to people, it's not a 100% elimination of your chance to get COVID, but it reduces your risk so much. And I equate it to wearing a seatbelt. If I'm in a car crash and I have a seatbelt on, I might get a little muscle strain, I might have a few bruises, but I'm going to get out and walk away. If I don't have a seatbelt on, it could be a completely different story. And the same goes for the vaccine. If I'm vaccinated and I get COVID, I might feel like I just have a cold or even some body aches for a few days. And that's where the patients come to me and say, I can't have COVID, I have the vaccine, we test positive, but it's such a minor case, it's amazing. And so that's the analogy I really feel works well to explain to people. Since the vaccine has been available, I have tried to encourage my patients. I start a conversation by saying, I'm updating your list of vaccines in your chart. Have you had the COVID shot? And if they have questions, that's a good way to open into those conversations. And I really feel that by doing so and letting a person ask questions in a safe environment like that without any scare tactics is a good way to encourage people to get vaccinated. And I do hope that my relationship with my patients helps them feel safe and even encouraged if they were hesitating, helps them be encouraged to go get the vaccine. I believe all my partners feel the same way. We want our patients to be safe. So I always encourage my patients and friends and family to get vaccinated. And I myself was vaccinated as early as I could back in December. When patients or friends or family ask me if I'm vaccinated, of course I answer yes. I got vaccinated as soon as I could back in December. And my family members are all vaccinated, my extended family as well. And I believe we had a lucky break that my son, who was 16 at the time, got a part-time gig working at Central District Health Department in December of 2020, helping sign people up for Test Nebraska. And because he was doing that, he was able to get his vaccine as a 16-year-old as soon as it was approved for that age group. And that was such a blessing. He was so excited. He saw it as a way through and past the pandemic. He's told his friends. And it's been a little bit of a downer to see that we're not getting as many people vaccinated as we'd hoped, because I foresee when we have enough of the population vaccinated, there just won't be hosts or people for this virus to jump into, and it'll fizzle down. It may always be in the background, but we will be able to be back to our lives without always worrying about who am I next to, who am I touching, where am I going, where there might have been a sick person. I'm so excited for that future, and I see it coming soon. I just really need to believe in that, and as people get vaccinated, that's how we're going to do it.